kick off this episode by jumping into this concept of peace of mind.
Peace of mind.
So there is a lot of talk around this state of being. Peace seems to imply a sense of equilibrium, some sense of stability within. So why is it glorified like this? What is it for you? What are you associating with it?
Yeah, I'm immediately thinking again about this being in the moment. Worrying about past events is not peace of mind, I think. And also contemplating the future does not relate to peace of mind. So if we subtract those two, all that is left is being in the moment. It is, yeah, I would also say a sense of awareness of the things that are, kind of playing you, distracting you, knowing what those things are. Because the mind will constantly play tricks on you, right? Kind of get you to do certain things, essentially. But if you are aware of the tricks that your mind plays, then peace of mind can be achievable, I suppose.
It reminds me also of this balance we talked last time about, in between this momentary contentment for the things you have and the striving forward for things that you want to have.
You don't want to be constantly in a state of peace of mind, of course, then.
Yeah. So also for you, peace of mind is heavily correlated with the contentment sides in the now. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Why are people gravitating towards it? Normally we talk about this striving state. I think we mentioned it several times. Valued goal. You perceive yourself on achieving this, like becoming the person you want to be, acquiring what you want to have, and that this is satisfaction. Why is it then that peace of mind, being on the contentment side, is so central?
Yeah. I think that if we break down what you just mentioned, the goal, pursuit and achievable, that would mean that the pursuit is 99% of the time and the achievable is 1% of the time. So if we're constantly pursuing goals, that would mean that 99% of the time we're in a state where we are not happy because we're not at our goal. While if we can find peace of mind and contentment again in the process, then we flip it. Then 99% of the time we're happy, and that 1% of the time where we achieve the goal is actually the uncomfortable state where we think, oh, I actually need to set new goals.
Interesting.
So if you flip it like that, like it's a choice, like would you rather be unhappy 99% of the time, happy 1%, or would you rather be happy for 99% of the time, or whatever, you understand?
Yeah, so this post-achieving depression. So after you've gained what you've been working for a prolonged period of time, there is this, those storytellings around NBA players on the day after being like severely depressed because all of a sudden like the like process towards what was meant to be valuable is now gone, and this like meaning like now hole needs to be refilled. So yeah, striking the balance in between this peace of mind in the process, and not being dependent, not on process, on continuous growth or whatever that might be.
Achieve or yeah.
So that seems critical.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And the beauty is that if you practice the skill of meditation, you can find this contentment, this being in the moment, this, what's the word you used for it earlier in the beginning? Peace of mind.
Peace of mind, yeah.
Whenever you want. And for some people, what I've seen is that it's there already by nature. Some people have this in them already. I was definitely somebody that did not have this. I'm a huge like overthinker, constantly playing out scenarios in my head and whatever. So it was quite tough to learn to meditate, but I've been doing it for multiple years now, and I'm so happy that I learned it.
I will definitely join you on the wagon of
Pro meditation.
pro meditation, and thus like by nature problems having peace of mind in the now. So I need to actively invest energy achieving this.
Anchoring yourself into the moment.
Yeah. Interesting that you said overthinking. Yeah. That is then mostly concerning the past, what you have done, but also what might be coming at you and how you will respond to it. So future.
So it's interesting. Now that I'm thinking about it, I would say that back in the day, it was mostly the past. It was mostly replaying scenarios that happened and thinking about what I could have done better. But I don't do that anymore at all, or barely. Now it's just like trying to calculate what will happen in the future, possibilities that will happen in the future. It's very interesting how that has changed.
And are those like this playing out of future scenarios, is that mostly a pleasant experience for you?
Yeah, I would. Pleasant, yes.
So is it allowing your peace of mind whilst you do that?
I wouldn't relate it to peace of mind. It is possibilities and opportunities. It is largely positive, but there's also, of course, bad case scenarios, which are also reality. You need to think about that. But when I'm thinking about it, I do mostly have a positive association with it. Yeah.
Now that you said bad case scenarios, you gotta think of them as well. How do you think about those when, and then how do you also stop thinking of them when you believe that you've invested, sufficient time and energy figuring out what you could be figuring out right now?
Yeah, pulling yourself into the moment. There is kind of this threshold of enough is enough. Now this is, like you said, I've invested enough time and energy into this, and it's just about thinking what needs to be done right now and doing that. Thinking is great. I like to think. I enjoy it, but in the end, nothing happens when you think. Things only happen when you do it. So, and naturally, being a big thinking person, I feel that putting more energy towards deliberate practice and getting myself to start doing things quicker, faster, and iterating faster has only given me benefit.
So that comes back to really getting to know yourself. What are your natural inclinations, and what then are your growth potentials where they found.
Yeah, the counterbalance.
Yeah. So, yeah, close the circle. It is interesting that you said certain personality types might be naturally more inclined to establishing peace of mind within them. What do you think how would you describe those personalities?
Yeah, very content people. Seems like these people don't need a lot. I'm also trying to think of those persons right now.
If you think of introvert, extrovert, like...
It's interesting that you related to that. Yeah. I was also like running that through my head. So that would be that extrovert people are more inclined to be in the moment. And according to what we just said, that would mean that they're more content, generally speaking.
Theory 1.
Theory 1. Hypothesis. Yeah, it does kind of make sense. I mean, I can only be certain of the counter, my personal experience.
Theory 2 being introverted people are by nature way more used to their own thoughts and internal dialogue, texture of their own minds. By that, they learn to deal with that way better. So the entire experience, like a huge chunk of the lifetime experience, is shaped by themselves because they have like control over what is going on within you. Whereas an extroverted human is having way less experience dealing with your own thoughts, feelings, insights, aspirations. By that, has way more contact with the outside world, which is
doing things,
not up to himself.
Yeah.
He's
also,
enslaved to the outside inputs.
Yeah.
So that would then mean that overall, peace of mind is easier to achieve by being introverted.
Yeah, in the sense of deliberate practice, right? Yeah, it does make sense because the practice of meditation is not controlling your thoughts. That's pretty much impossible, but kind of observing them, taking a step back from them, which means that you need to be generally also comfortable with them. And you need to notice when they start happening and not dive into them. Although I would say that introverted people do have a bigger inclination to, when that thought arises, when it pops up, to completely dive into it, to grab it with two hands and start exploring it and etc. Well, that's not what you do with meditation, right? The thought pops up and you try to observe it happening. And by doing so, it kind of dissipates. At least that's my personal experience with it.
So, like observation being a sense of detachment. So, like one big realization for me was that your own thoughts are not you. They are happening within you, but they are not you.
Yeah.
It's been a long time that I took seriously what was going on within me. And it's like, if this train of thought is occurring within me, then therefore it is legitimized to pursue. It is legitimized to seriously think of it. Whilst, there is a huge chunk of stuff going in there that is
Unconscious,
unconscious stuff coming up that you are totally non-aware of. There is fear. There is so much like negative influence that you don't want your lifetime experience to be influenced by, but it's still there. So I like this, or it has been a huge step for me, like deliberately detaching. And so the observing part comes in there very nicely. So
Yeah. It was also for me, such a crazy realization, because I'd noticed that sometimes if I was at a place, a balcony, like a big height, the thought would pop up like, how would it be to jump off this?
mm,
And I was like, oh my God, I am crazy or I'm suicidal. Yeah. But no, it's just your brain like playing out scenarios. It's just what it does by nature. Everybody has this, or maybe not everybody, but I read online that I'm not the only one. So it's just the brain playing tricks.
yeah, what is that? There's curiosity. What would happen if playing scenarios all the time? And this is also interesting, coming back to this peace of mind. This playing scenarios seems to be quite a normal thing to do. Even though it's like counter to however peace you want to define. So
I think it's a big like survival mechanism that I do believe that it's unique to humans. I don't think a dog is like playing out scenarios in its head. I think animals are like constantly in the moment, like continual peace of mind, which is so interesting, right? We have this unique ability to think in the future, think about the past, kind of this meta perspective, but it's like on at the same time it's like terrible. Like it brings forth so much suffering and pain, that we are now like talking about, okay, how do we deliberately go out of this and bring ourselves back to the moment? Very interesting, fascinating.
yeah, there's the one Norwegian philosopher that was I forgot his name, talking about the like hyper development of human beings. So you are so aware of yourself and have those scenario playing capabilities, or
Was it the anxiety guy that did like the deep?
as well. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
That was a Danish fella.
Oh, that was the last episode. No. The Norwegian one was something else. But I forgot his name. But so you are so aware of yourself that it's detrimental to your experience.
Yeah.
So getting then into this, being inspired by our fellow friends and companions, the animals, being instinct led. To what extent shall we adopt this? Like there's also a sense of instinctual drive within us, and I don't mean like negative parts of that. Of course, we are, civilized beings, and we are like also thriving through that. But like, what is instinct within human beings, and how could it be applied to normal life?
Yeah. I think that I should listen to my instinct more than I do. And again, crazy. Humans are like, or animals are completely driven by their instinct, most likely. We cannot look inside there, but good chance that that is the case. And we have this choice, right? I have this feeling that I should do it, but then there's this, and this that will also be impacted by that.
Yeah. How do you relate instinct to intuition? Is intuition the human interpretation of instinct?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, seems logical.
Just maybe that instinct, animal-based instinct, is very much geared towards responding to the now and what is like needed for this gazelle, escaping from this predator. So it's like entirely responsive, and takes like less into account what it has experienced, but rather what nature has given it. Yeah. And then that.
Do you think the both are factored into that?
Sure. I'm just thinking of this innate response of this gazelle that was just born, being aware that, you know, this gentleman down the line there, he's not my friend. You know, I feel that you are an immense threat to me. So, but however that happens, however brain circuits are right away like primed to be aware of that. But coming back to human intuition, then that human intuition takes into account the entirety of your experience throughout life.
Yeah, but more, no?
Even more?
Yeah, I would say that there's also, just like the gazelle has, there's this, Carl Jung referred to it as the collective conscious, which is a beautiful way of putting it. So the way he describes it, it's very abstract, right? He says it's all the experience of all your forefathers and mothers, everything is in you, which sounds like, are all their souls in you? Whatever. No, it's just the programming of your DNA, right? It's very simple.
Interesting. So that is very interesting, because by saying that you have by nature an influence on your intuition, that means we are back at this nature nurture conversation. So the nurture being your own experiences throughout life, and the nature being what has been in there. But your nature influences are coming from past nurture components. Since those forefathers, they have experienced stuff by themselves that adapted their genetic material in a way that it is processed towards you, yeah?
Yeah.
So
I'm now wondering, where did it start? You know, where did this I mean, it started with a one cell being. I guess that was the first instance of nurture then.
Yeah. Yeah, but just as nature starts somewhere, nurture starts somewhere, right?
Yeah. Chicken or the egg discussion in here. Yeah. So, what is peace of mind to you?
It is like an absence of worries, straight to mind. An absence of, by that, the overthinking, I believe the more you can trust in yourself, trust in your own value proposition, whatever that is, the more you can be confident in the moment that knowing obstacles and challenges will arise, you will be able to deal with them properly. So trust is, of course, a big topic. Also, what I want to promote with Live Godly.
And is that then trust in ability, trust in the process? Is that kind of the...
I guess when you want to trust in the process, you need to have a fundamental trust in your abilities as well. So
but the process can also create more ability.
Mhm. Yeah, it's coming back to this also, like self-confidence conversation. What is it really, and how is it like naturally created? And it seems like there shall be a, proof of an evidence that what you are saying you are is in some form or another validated by what you've done.
Past experiences,
Yeah.
past results. It was very interesting. I was rereading this book again, Persuasion by Cialdini, and he was talking about this student that was like in the top 0.1% of GPAs or whatever, or it was SAT, I'm not sure. And later on, the class realized, hey, this guy isn't that much smarter than us. So what gives him the ability to perform better on the tests? There was a couple different things. There was some strategy in regards to how you make the test, etc. The most interesting part was that what most people do right before they take a test, they're going to look over the things that they don't know and try to cram it all in there, which is anxiety inducing, right? You start stressing, you start worrying. Really logical that if you're stressed and worried, your performance is going to be less good. This guy said, what I do is I get psyched up. He's in there thinking about all the times that he had wins academically,
Okay.
giving him confidence, making him more persistent because of that confidence. I related it to that because it's this, this is evidence, right? I've done it before, so I'm gonna do it again now.
So that is like your perspective on things then changes your entire outlook towards it, and by that your real world output of what you create.
Yeah, and it's super logical. If you're worried, stressed, and have anxiety, of course you're gonna perform less good.
Yeah.
While on the other side, if you have confidence, of course you're gonna be more persistent. You're gonna, be more straight thinking. You're gonna be more in the moment. Yeah.
Coming back for 1 second to our meditation conversation, and I want to share this one protocol that was presented by Mr. Huberman on the Modern Wisdom podcast, and it was talking about a kind of adapted regime by not having the meditation as like an thought observation standpoint, but also being in a physical pausing state, so you're not physically calm, but you let your thought mechanisms fully roll out. So it is advised to think in whole sentences, whatever that is coming up.
Finish the thought.
Really, like roll through it. And theory being that you are like emptying everything that is like being stored in the background.
I really like the idea of organizing the file cabinet, putting everything where it belongs. Because you're totally right. The fact that these things are coming up, there's a reason for that. And if you don't like kind of end the thought, finish it, and give it a place, then most likely it's going to pop up again. So what I personally do is I'm like to meditate, like on a perfect day, I like to meditate in the morning and the evening. In the morning, I'm really like trying to anchor this sense of mindfulness, being in the moment, which I can then rely on during the day to go back to. And in the evening, it's more this looser approach, organizing the file cabinet, like I just said, giving each thought its place, essentially.
Interesting. Yeah. I would say currently for me in the morning, this meditation regime, it was like transferred like in a way towards the regime that I just described. So this normally this observation standpoint of thoughts, like there were so many thoughts that it got to be more of a conversation with myself. So I feel like in times when there is a lot going on, like this stillness within yourself can also feel wrong. So at least for me in the like last period, it's been valuable to also within this meditation frame engage with those thoughts, even though minimally, but really letting them roll out, not beating yourself up about those arising.
Trying to meditate.
Yeah.
These thoughts. Yeah, that's like.
I mean, it's also a meditation objective, I guess, to let them roll out and observe them. But like meditation advanced, you're like not advanced necessarily, but like differentiated, so that you like accept like busy internal texture of minds.
Yeah, we've spoken about this before. I think it was after the first episode that I related meditation to the modus of my eyes. Right? So you have this modus of your eyes that are focused on a singular point and that they're gazing, that they're looking at a horizon or whatever. And so this, what you were describing, this rolling out of thought, etc. For me, it goes in the focus bracket, and I notice it in my eyes when I'm doing this form of meditation. My eyes are in the focus mode, and this observing state, my eyes are in a gazing mode. And I think there's a lot of benefit to both of these forms of being. And again, balance. Seems like there's always an x-axis and a y-axis.
Yeah. Interesting. We'll pursue this further. So I truly believe every form of like created stillness physically, but then in a way activity psychologically, like can improve you in the end improving the relationship with yourself. One other topic I was passionate about talking to you, this whole self-improvement concept. So I was thinking that we are living in quite a strange era in terms of in a way counteracting the normal like male archetype of not needing any support, being like not reliant on any kind of regime or practice to function at your best. This beer drinking,
traditional masculine.
Yeah, whatever inducing, it all does not matter. My functions are preserved. How do you think this self-improvement industry is like so huge nowadays?
I do think like, because there's a lot to this, individuality, not being reliant on others. But I would say that in a state of being, you're not reliant on others, but in a state of growing, it's only exaggerated or kind of boosted by others. It's also a reason why investors, startup investors, do prefer two founders. Because if you have one guy just thinking by himself, it's a single train of thought. But if you have two guys, then there's two sources of ideas, plus they're being bounced around, which it's not linear, it's exponential, right?
Why can't you bounce within yourself?
You can, but it's bouncing between the same entity. So I would say that is like a linear line. Well, if you have two different entities, then it's exponential because there's two different entities with different experiences, with different ideas, etc. And we're having all these interviews now within Neumo, within my business, and it's so beautiful to see. I was just texting with my business partner who just had another interview as well, and again, somebody sharing how much energy they get simply by seeing other people do the things that they want to do and being slightly connected with those people. How much people get from that? Seeing other people become more consistent. That's also a form of evidence, but external evidence. Again, this idea of, hey, he's doing it, I can also do it. Why not?
Mm-hmm. How did you get to this interview, like being being responsive to your key activities within your business? How did you relate this to the self-improving mind, etc.? How did you get to this? I couldn't follow your train of thoughts on that.
So we're just talking to people to understand how we can help them better.
Yeah.
But being able to understand them better, we first need to understand what they are already getting out of what we're giving them now.
Mm.
So for the people that are listening, it's very simple. It's a group chat where you build up streaks by sending your kind of to-do list, your task list, your daily goals, your day planning in the group. And so essentially the line of question is like, how did you get here? What were your expectations? And were those expectations met? Were they exceeded? Did we fall under the expectations? And everybody's like, it's a lot better than I thought what it would be. And then they start giving reasons for that. And it's all like this importance of community. And then with that also them expressing, I miss this. I don't have this in my environment. So being able to provide that is, and so again, it kind of enhances what one person can do, purely because these thoughts and ideas and advices are being bounced around between multiple entities. Does that make more sense?
seeing like the beauty in different people's like ideation, and really embracing this. Yeah. So this, yeah, inherent like people value. It's like that's also again like a hidden metric, I would say. I mean, you have like a roughly like an idea of like where people are coming from, what their experiences are, what their qualifications are, etc. So like I can like roughly describe what I believe your value proposition is about, but then people don't know themselves how they are made, etc. So yeah, it's a I agree. It's then a truly exponential game combining like different internal like texture of minds together and seeing how synergy can be created.
Yeah. And then also understanding yourself by yourself is very hard. Since we learned by contrast, I think we mentioned that last time. If you start understanding other people, you can contrast yourself against other people.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So coming back to this typical stereotype being counteracted by self-improvement, I don't know what the root causes to this is, but I feel like people have become, like, generally speaking, a bit more like connected, honest with themselves, being it's up to me if I take route A or B. Those two have outcome A or B. Those two outcomes are nowadays quite clearly defined. So you know what your smoking addiction is like doing to you. You know what your alcohol consume is doing to you. You know what your non activity within like physical sports is doing to you. So I guess an elevation of like insights that like has tremendously pushed people to becoming more agentic with themselves, and by that into this self-improvement frame. Yeah, what do you think? What is promoting like self-improvement? What else is there? Is it maybe also a positive upside of this social media creation?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the core, what the proposition of social media and the internet is that the access to information is bigger. Hence, the access to inspiration is also bigger. And there are simply more possibilities. And this can also be said, in my opinion, of things like alcohol or other stimulants. They all have an upside. They only become a poison when you no longer control the portion. And to be honest, you can say the same about water, right? You can poison yourself with water if you drink enough. And also with social media, because it's, you're trying to display, or people are trying to display themselves, you start seeing what is possible.
Yeah.
Initially, what I thought of, however, when you asked the question was, I think that what like the main um, goal of a man is, I would say, is to create value, however that may be. And creating value is directly related to how good you can control yourself, delaying gratification, etc. And this self-improvement, the better you are, the better you can create value, right? We talked about this last time. In order to serve others, you must first be in a good place yourself, because in the better place you are in, the better able you are to serve other people. And this has like many different dimensions. So there's the physical aspect and there's the mental aspect, and then those two are related, because the stronger your mind is, the harder you can train your body, and the harder you can train your body, the harder you train your mind. Again, the deeper you can go, the harder you can push yourself, etc. And
Is that also a reason why self-improvement is so appealing? Is that by becoming better at A, you are, as a consequence, getting better at B, and this is like a virtuous cycle that is being created?
yeah,
So you can,
I would say so.
you have like very quickly mapped out potential future steps for yourself that you know the upside is positive.
And again, like the moment life throws something at you, you have all this evidence in your head of like, oh, but I did this, this, and this, and every day I push myself. So why wouldn't I be able to do this one thing that is now a test of life, a trial, a tribulation?
Yeah, that is interesting. So this entire interconnectedness of things, like that is of course also making it very hard for you to step out of those self-improving actions once you've entered.
Yeah, once the momentum is going.
Yeah. So then also again finding balance within this. So like I guess there's a real potential for addiction-like states in pursuing an ever self-improving me and you.
100%. But when does it become an addiction? That's the question.
I guess the moment that it hinders you from doing things that you feel you would have liked to do. I guess the moment you then start to post-rationalize why this thing that you initially thought would be something for you is not right for you. So then self-deception again. So I guess the moment it takes over areas that should be up to you and not up to your ambition-like persona within you.
But then I would say, according to that definition, elite athletes are severe addicts, while they're at the same time like glorified in culture.
An interesting point you're raising, yeah. I guess there are some personalities that are more like drawn to this extreme like lifestyle.
Obsessiveness. I think all like high performers are obsessive, but then, like you said, there's also a big downside of people that express it differently. For example, a video game addict or a social media addict it's the same fucking thing. It's obsessive behavior. Only one is deemed productive by society and therefore glorified, and the other is not.
So pick your addiction.
Yeah. Pick your addiction.
Yeah, it's tough. Like knowing for yourself how deep you want to go into things. Like when is your passion, when does it stop serving you, and when do you start serving your passion? Hopefully your obsession is your passion. I just was just presupposing this.
Can you define passion in this sense? I don't really like the word, to be honest.
Why is that? No, just the thing that is like you deem to be worthy enough of being obsessive about it.
Okay. Yeah. Because I think a lot of people think that they need to like something before they start doing it in order for it to be a passion. But that would imply that you're already good at it because you like what you're good at, right? Like on a most like surface level. But in order to become good at something, you need to fail. It needs to suck.
Yeah. How then do you select and non-select things when there's no initial knowing about if that is something for me or not?
What are always outcomes that we want, right? We want to get somewhere. Even though it's not, we need to like the process, etc. There's always like some end point that we want to end up at, and then there's going to be another one and another one. And I think it's just prioritization, rational thought of, okay, I want to achieve this. I want to either do this for myself or for other people or whatever. And then simple, rational prioritization of I need to be able to do this. I need to be good at that in order to get there. So therefore I must do it.
And then like hoping or just assuming that whilst being in the process you get better, and by that also enjoyment increases.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I guess also just an open mind when approaching new things. So being able to decrease the importance of past experiences or other inputs that you've had. Why are we oftentimes so closed-minded? Why are we so consumed by stuff that we believe we've discovered about ourselves? Is that the identity thing, right?
Must be.
Yeah. So I had XY experience, and this was my XY internal response. So when I do this experience again, this will be my XY response again. I guess it's like simplification, huh? Like ticking boxes. This is not what I am, this and that period. I guess it is to a certain extent also should be legitimized to do something like that, because you need to like base your current actions on past experiences. But then there needs to be this point of like re-experimentation, right?
Yeah, and what if your past experiences have been negative? You need to be able to overcome that as well. Like you need to be able to push through that, because the first few times, by default, it's gonna suck, you know. And maybe the first 100 times are gonna suck. Maybe the first 3 years are gonna suck. I think like the only. So how do you overcome that? I think you have evidence of the past of overcoming things has led to something. You have the evidence of seeing other people that have done it. And then there's the anchor of the end goal, the reward, essentially, that it will give you. Like, in order to get Y, I need to do X. There's no other way. But I think it requires a heavy foregoing of like momentary pleasure and simply the mindset. Something that keeps popping up in my mind is I will do what is required. Was Alex Hormozy, I believe, made a very pungent point. It's not about wanting, it's not about feeling like, it is just about doing what has to be done.
Yeah, I believe like that's a critical message. Yeah. You can of course also take this too far, getting you into things you shouldn't get into, based on personality, personal preference, etc. And that leads me to this one notion, sunk cost fallacy, being like stuck within patterns that you are because you started them, and related to this strategy that brought you from point A to B is not the one that is bringing you from B to C. I think people are very bad at adapting the strategic disposition based on environments, circumstances having changed.
So essentially the ability to pivot.
Yeah, pivoting is like, it's scary, right? It's like uncertain. Is it going to work the same like way that my previous experienced strategy has worked? So what I've come to believe is that we are very bad at detecting those major turning points. So when is B achieved and when is my new objective set to C?
Because it can kind of feel like there's still a lot to gain. Well, there isn't. That's what you mean, right?
Yeah. At least your identity feels like,
We're not done here.
yeah, it needs more of that, since your identity is also shaped by your pursuit. Like an attachment towards what you've done, not accepting that it's over the way you did it.
It's the founder's dilemma, right?
The founder's dilemma. Tell me.
Well, let's say initially a founder needs to be heavily invested in like the sales process and product development, whatever. But when it's time to scale, you need to detach yourself from that process and become, first of all, good at, kind of scripting the process, being able to hand that over to other people and start learning other people to do that. And once you have reached that threshold, essentially it's time to start over again with a new set of skills, right? And that is so the launch or the initial startup phase is point A to B, and then B to C would be scaling, which requires you to take a different position with different skills and pretty much starting over again.
This is like so like solid life advice, like really diving deep into this. I believe a lot of like just internal bullshit can be minimized. So unfortunately, I'm also talking of like personal experience, having this, you know, this passion for this fitness, bodybuilding approach in like not being able to detect that now there are there's now all of a sudden more than that to focus a
Bigger fish.
a big chunk of attention towards.
Yeah. For like that must be even harder because you did not complete your initial goal. Or perhaps the end goal, right? Standing on the stage. Must be very painful.
Thank you for empathy. So yeah, that's it's very logical what you're saying. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's painful. It has been it has been very confusing since I mean, it hasn't always been the case that I wanted to be on stage, etc. It's been more of like a pivot in my like early adolescence towards fitness entirely, and then like being into some sunk cost fallacy. You know, you move through it, etc., etc. The years go by. No, it's been more like very confusing and like accepting that this whole fitness journey, that is something that is like it moves with you throughout life. At least I believe it should be in some form or another. So it's not like you can close a chapter and you open up a new one. It's something that you just transform and make it work within like your new life circumstances.
This is why I don't like the term self-improvement, because it kind of implies that you're moving on to the next chapter. I prefer the term self-development. It's more accumulative, right? And in my eyes, this is like the essence of the process versus the goal, right? Recognizing that even though I only got to 60, 70, 80% of where I wanted to go, that 60, 70, 80% is in me forever.
And that's exactly the part that I needed in order to jump to the next competence hierarchy.
Maybe it was all you need, exactly. Because setting goals can also be seen as a skill, which would mean that initially you're going to be bad at it.
Very much so.
So therefore, perhaps the 60, 70, 80%, like you said, was all you needed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting when you like decided to pursue like an avenue and you're committed with it, and you like you do feel the biggest chunk of activities that are needed to do it. So back to the train, like the food and the training and you know the sleeping, like being just having your whole lifestyle committed to it. But then all of a sudden, like feeling more and more like a disconnect with like certain parts. Like I am very interested in doing, for example, this, having ideas, walking through them, being curiosity led. You know, what does that mean in this context? What can we learn from this and that? And this is something that like I've experienced less in this, especially bodybuilding world. And so there was this internal disconnect for like quite some time. And
like you were missing something.
Yeah.
Where did you discover it though? This curiosity, this. Because you're by nature like curious.
Yeah. Where, when? Or
Yeah.
in general? No, I believe that has always been, yeah. That's also something I really want to promote with Live Godly, being curiosity led is like allows you a level of understanding without needing to work for it, without investing active energy in it. And curiosity is also, it's again the virtuous cycle. So the more you are curious about A, the more you can be curious about B, since A is in some sense interconnected with B and A is informing B. So all of a sudden you have like a rough idea of how B works. So you want to know like more about how B works based on your information of A. To make it less abstract. For example, one like big part that I'm passionate about is like how people work, how are different like personality characteristics coming together, how are they, naturally able to cooperate with each other, how is a translation of different values and behaviors needed in order to make cooperation work. And then just sitting in this cafe and seeing the the barista behind the bar and the waiter and seeing how they interact with each other. Sometimes the barista is a bit more introverted to himself, a bit more of a crafty guy that is shaping the milk within the coffee texture, etc. And then you have the waiter that might be a bit more of an extroverted nature, and then how do they connect with each other, where then touch points, and so just finding something that is that you naturally gravitating towards, becoming just allowing yourself to become curious about it. I guess it had also a lot to do with minimizing distraction to allow curious thoughts to come up in your everyday life.
Yeah.
And then jumping into this virtuous cycle. So the story around curiosity and why I want to promote it. Yeah, but coming back to your first question, how did I come to realize my passion for this whole curiosity-driven approach? I think it's been more like not becoming comfortable with not having something tangible at hand that you identify yourself with. I think most people need to latch onto something all the time.
With that thing, for example, being fitness.
For example, I am this fitness guy, and this is like stability, internal certainty, this is what I stand for, etc. And whilst that is also important to build identity around things that you are gravitating towards, I guess in periods of change, you need to allow exploration to be allowed. And at least in my experience, then detaching yourself from identities shaped from your prior self is allowing recreation, new creation of yourself.
The phoenix. Yeah, and for some reason I also related back again to this learning by contrast, right? If we have black and white and you're constantly living in the white area, then it can be blinding to a certain degree. And simply allowing yourself to go into the black area will make you realize either, oh no, I should be in the white area, this is like I'm going in the right direction, or hey, this is also giving me quite a bit, making me realize that there's more to life than what I have been doing.
Very much so. Just coming from a confirmation bias standpoint.
Yeah.
Having the wide perspective, you're gonna see reasons why white is the correct avenue, but also why it is perfectly suitable to you.
Yeah.
So
I need to read more books that I disagree with.
that's a big topic as well. Yeah. It's always hard because there is like, at least given that you are in some way or another thoughtful and have, contemplated like reasons for believing the things that you believe, it, at least for me, can then be a hard step to say, I'm gonna invest this amount of time and energy exploring someone else's thoughts that are counter to mine, even though like from a like first principle standpoint, that's exactly how you can add on to your perspective.
Yeah, strengthen your own point.
Strengthen your own point, yeah, and maybe also finding your own like personal balance in between two cases, because most of the times, I mean, you are not A or B, yeah.
Yeah. And maybe too deeply invested in A.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Pull yourself a bit. Also, today, like with the algorithms, you get served things predominantly that you agree with.
Yeah.
Because the algorithm sees, oh, you like this. People that like this also like this. Therefore, you must like this, and we will give you this.
Unbelievable, right? Like this confirmation bias has been active forever. For some reason, we are meant to function like this. We could also think about why that is so, like evolutionary successful. But then we create those powerful systems in algorithmic format governing those social media giants, and they are like, confirmation bias is their like foundation.
Yeah.
What does that make like out of societies and a world in general?
Yeah. Yeah, and especially back in the day, societies heavily do this, right? That's why there's such big cultural differences in regards to like individuality, etc.
Mm-hmm.
We're so heavily shaped by the people around us that kind of breeds this bias.
Do you think humans have like any way in which to decrease confirmation bias, like naturally? Is it that we maybe are, from an intellectual standpoint, interested in the standpoint that is differing from ours? There's something interesting about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, why do you think that? I think the exact opposite.
I do believe that inherently people make connections on things they agree with. Like in big lines, if you disagree with each other, but not like on one particular point, but on most things, good chance that you're not gonna like each other. Connections are more made of like, oh, you're German. Oh, I've been here and here and here, and it was amazing, and I loved it so much, and then the German guy is gonna like you because you're able to connect on this similarity.
I'm not that easy to buy, at least I hope. I see your point.
No, but with you, it's just talking about meditation and philosophy. And you're like, oh.
The entrance.
Fitness also. I mean, there's so much to it. It's very, very complex, very intricate.
Yeah. It has been fun. It's been a pleasure, and looking forward to seeing you back ASAP.
Wonderful. Likewise.